You know what hurts the most. It's not the weight you carry. It's carrying it alone. It's waking up every single day knowing that everything depends on you. That if you don't do it, nobody will. That if you fall, everything falls with you. And you keep going, keep pushing, keep pretending you're strong enough to handle it all by yourself. But here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. You weren't made to carry everything alone. You just weren't. And the moment you decided to be strong for everyone, to solve every problem, to never ask for help, to never show weakness, that was the moment the loneliness started eating you from the inside. Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How many years have you spent being the one everyone leans on? How many times have you dried someone else's tears while your own eyes were full of pain? How many nights have you gone to bed exhausted, not from work, but from the weight of pretending everything is fine when it's not? You became the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks. And people got so used to that version of you that they forgot you're human too. They forgot you hurt too. They forgot you need a shoulder to cry on just like everyone else. And slowly, without even realizing it, you forgot too. You forgot that asking for help isn't weakness. You forgot that sharing your burden isn't failure. You forgot that God never intended for you to walk this road completely alone. He gave you people, He gave you community, He gave you loved ones. But somewhere along the way, you decided you had to protect everyone by protecting them from your pain. And that's the lie, isn't it? You thought you were being strong. You thought you were being loving. You thought you were doing the right thing by keeping it all inside, by handling it all yourself, by never letting anyone see you struggle. But what you were really doing was building walls so high that nobody could reach you anymore. Not even the people who truly wanted to help. Think about it. When was the last time you let someone really see you? Not the version of you that has it all together. Not the smile you put on when you walk into a room, but the real you. The tired you. The overwhelmed you. The you that's barely holding on some days. When was the last time you said, I can't do this alone anymore? Maybe it's been years. Maybe it's been so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to share your pain with someone who cares. Maybe you've convinced yourself that nobody would understand anyway. That nobody has time for your problems. That everyone else has their own struggles and you don't want to be a burden. But here's what happens when you carry everything alone. You start to break. Maybe not all at once. Maybe not in ways people can see. But piece by piece, day by day, you start to crack under the weight of it all. Your joy starts to fade. Your peace starts to slip away. Your faith starts to feel heavy instead of light. And you wonder why life feels so hard when you're doing everything you're supposed to do. It's because you're doing it alone. And that was never the plan. God didn't create you to be an island. He didn't give you a heart that loves deeply just so you could lock it away and never let anyone in. He didn't give you struggles just so you could prove how strong you are by handling them all yourself. He gave you challenges so you could learn to lean. So you could learn to trust. So you could learn that true strength isn't in carrying everything alone. It's in knowing when to let others help carry it with you. You see, there's something beautiful that happens when you finally open up. When you finally let someone see your pain. When you finally say, I need help, or I'm not okay, or I can't do this by myself anymore. That vulnerability you're so afraid of? That's actually where real connection begins. That's where real love shows up. That's where you discover who truly cares about you. Because the people who love you don't want the perfect version of you. They want the real you. They want to be there for you the way you've been there for them. They want to share your burden because that's what love does. It carries. It supports. It shows up. But you have to let them in first. And I know it's scary. I know you've been hurt before. Maybe you opened up once and someone let you down. Maybe you asked for help and nobody came. Maybe you showed your weakness and someone used it against you. So you promised yourself you'd never do that again. You'd never give anyone that power again. You'd handle everything yourself from now on. But can I tell you something? That one person who hurt you doesn't represent everyone. That one time you were disappointed doesn't mean everyone will disappoint you. And that pain you're protecting yourself from by staying closed off? You're already feeling it. You're already living in it. Because isolation is its own kind of hurt. Loneliness is its own kind of pain. And carrying everything alone is slowly breaking you in ways you haven't even admitted to yourself yet. Look at Jesus. Even he didn't do everything alone. He had his disciples. He had people he trusted. He had moments when he said, "Stay with me. Pray with me. I need you right now." If the Son of God needed community, needed support, needed people to walk with him through the hard times, what makes you think you don't? Pride tells you that you should be able to handle it all. That you should be strong enough. That asking for help means you've failed somehow. But that's not strength. That's stubbornness. That's fear dressed up as independence. Real strength is admitting when you're overwhelmed. Real courage is saying, "I can't do this alone." Real faith is trusting that God will send the right people to help you carry what you were never meant to carry by yourself. And here's the part that might surprise you. When you finally let people in, when you finally share your struggles, when you finally allow yourself to be vulnerable, you give them a gift too. You give them the opportunity to love you well. You give them the chance to be there for you. You show them that they matter to you, that you trust them, that you value them enough to let them see the real you. So many relationships stay surface level because nobody wants to go first. Nobody wants to be the one who admits they're struggling. Nobody wants to show weakness. But what if you went first? What if you were brave enough to say, "I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I need help"? You might be amazed at how many people have been waiting for permission to be real with you too. The walls you built to protect yourself are the same walls keeping out the help you desperately need. The mask you wear to look strong is the same mask hiding your pain from the people who want to ease it. The independence you're so proud of is the same independence that's keeping you lonely, exhausted, and heartbroken. And God sees it all. He sees you lying awake at night, wondering how you'll handle tomorrow. He sees the tears you cry when nobody's watching. He sees the weight pressing down on your shoulders. He sees you trying so hard to keep it all together. And he's whispering, "My child, you don't have to do this alone. I never asked you to. Let me help you. Let me send people who care. Let me lighten this load." But you have to be willing to receive it. You have to be willing to open your hands and let go of the illusion of control. You have to be willing to trust that it's okay to not be okay. That it's okay to need people. That it's okay to admit you're human and you can't do everything by yourself. If this message is touching your heart right now, if you're realizing that you've been carrying too much alone for too long, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Not for me, but so this message can reach others who need to hear it too. Someone else out there is carrying everything alone, thinking they have to be strong for everyone, and they need to know they're not alone in feeling this way. Taking care of everything by yourself isn't noble. It's not heroic. It's slowly killing the joy, the peace, and the hope inside you. And it's time to make a different choice. It's time to let people in. It's time to ask for help. It's time to admit that you need support just like everyone else. Because you matter too. Your pain matters. Your struggles matter. Your well-being matters. And you deserve to have people walk beside you, not just watching you carry everything from a distance, but actually helping you carry it. The question is, are you ready to let them? You know what's interesting? The people who carry everything alone usually started doing it for a good reason. Maybe you grew up in a home where you had to be the strong one, where showing emotion meant weakness, where crying meant you couldn't handle life. So you learned early that the world doesn't stop for your pain. You learned to push through, to smile when you're hurting, to keep moving even when you want to fall apart. Or maybe you had people in your life who let you down when you needed them most. You reached out once, twice, maybe 3 times, and nobody was there. So you made a decision. Never again. Never again will I put myself in that position. Never again will I depend on someone who might not show up. From now on, it's just me. I'll handle it. I'll figure it out. I don't need anyone. And for a while, that mindset probably protected you. It kept you from being disappointed. It kept you from being hurt. It gave you a sense of control in a world that felt chaotic. But here's what nobody tells you about that kind of protection. It comes at a cost. A cost that you don't realize you're paying until you've already paid it for years. The cost is connection. Real, deep, soul-level connection. Because when you build walls high enough to keep out pain, you also keep out love. When you close yourself off to needing people, you close yourself off to truly knowing them and letting them know you. When you decide to handle everything alone, you create a life where you're surrounded by people but still feel completely alone. And that's the tragedy of it all. You can have a house full of family and still feel lonely. You can have friends you talk to every day and still feel like nobody really knows you. You can be the person everyone comes to with their problems and still have nobody to go to with yours. Because somewhere along the way, you became the helper but forgot how to be helped. You became the giver but forgot how to receive. You became the strong one but forgot that strength sometimes looks like vulnerability. Think about how exhausting that is. Think about what it does to your spirit when you can never let your guard down. When you can never truly rest because rest means someone else has to carry something and you don't trust anyone else to do it right. When you can never fully relax because the moment you do, everything might fall apart. You've been running on empty for so long that you don't even remember what it feels like to be full. You've been giving from a dry well for so long that you've forgotten what it's like to be poured into. You've been holding everyone else up for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like to be held. And your body knows it. Your body is keeping score, even when your mind is trying to push through. That exhaustion that won't go away no matter how much you sleep? That's not just physical tiredness. That's soul-deep weariness from carrying too much alone. That heaviness in your chest? That's not just stress. That's the weight of unexpressed emotions, unshared burdens, and unspoken pain. That feeling of numbness? That's what happens when you've been strong for so long that you've disconnected from your own heart just to survive. God never intended for you to live this way. When He said, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest," He wasn't just talking about spiritual rest. He was talking about the kind of rest that comes from laying down what you were never meant to carry. The kind of peace that comes from admitting you can't do it all. The kind of relief that comes from finally saying, "I need help." But here's what makes this so hard. Asking for help requires trust. And trust is terrifying when you've been hurt before. Trust is scary when you've learned that people are unreliable. Trust feels impossible when every past experience has taught you that you're safer doing it yourself. So you keep going. You keep carrying. You keep pretending. And all the while, you're getting more tired, more bitter, more resentful. Not just toward the people in your life who don't seem to notice your struggle, but toward yourself for not being strong enough to handle it all without feeling this way. And that's where the shame comes in. You feel guilty for being tired when you think you should be stronger. You feel ashamed for wanting help when you've always been the one helping others. You feel weak for struggling with things that other people seem to handle just fine. So you hide it even more. You push even harder. You carry even more. And the cycle continues. But can I tell you something that might change everything? The people who truly love you are not impressed by your ability to do everything alone. They're not inspired by how much you can carry. They're not blessed by your strength if it means they never get to be there for you. What they want, what they're actually longing for, is the privilege of walking with you, of sharing your burden, of being trusted with your heart. You think you're protecting them by staying strong. You think you're being loving by handling everything yourself. But what you're actually doing is robbing them of the opportunity to love you back. You're taking away their chance to show up for you. You're denying them the blessing of being needed by someone they care about. Real relationships aren't built on one person being strong and the other being weak. They're built on both people being honest. On both people being vulnerable. On both people taking turns carrying each other when life gets heavy. But you can't have that kind of relationship if you're never willing to be the one who needs carrying. And here's the beautiful truth. When you finally open up, when you finally let someone help, when you finally admit you're struggling, you don't become a burden. You become human. You become real. You become someone others can actually connect with instead of just admire from a distance. Think about the people you're closest to. Not the people who always have it together, but the people who've let you see them struggle. The people who've trusted you with their pain. The people who've allowed you to help them through something hard. Don't you feel closer to them because of that? Don't you value that relationship more because it's real, not just surface level? That's what you're keeping from others when you refuse to let them in. That depth. That intimacy. That real connection that comes from being seen and loved anyway. You're so afraid of being a burden that you're missing out on the very thing you're longing for. Being truly known and still being loved. And God is right there, waiting for you to lay it down. All of it. The weight. The responsibility. The need to be strong. The fear of being weak. The pride that says you should be able to handle it. The hurt from the past that says you can't trust anyone. He's waiting for you to come to him, not with more strength, but with your weakness. Not with more answers, but with your questions. Not with more composure, but with your tears. He doesn't need you to have it all figured out. He needs you to trust him enough to admit you don't. He doesn't need you to be strong. He needs you to be honest. He doesn't need you to carry everything. He needs you to surrender it. And when you do, when you finally let go and let him and let others help, something miraculous happens. The burden doesn't necessarily disappear, but it becomes lighter. The problems don't all get solved immediately, but they become more manageable. The pain doesn't vanish, but it becomes bearable because you're not facing it alone anymore. You start to remember what peace feels like. Not the fake peace that comes from pretending everything is fine, but the real peace that comes from knowing you don't have to pretend anymore. You start to experience joy again. Not the forced happiness you show others, but the genuine joy that comes from being authentically yourself with people who accept you as you are. You begin to realize that you don't have to earn love by being useful. You don't have to prove your worth by being needed. You don't have to justify your existence by how much you can handle. You're valuable simply because you exist. You're worthy of help simply because you need it. You're deserving of support simply because you're human. And slowly, the walls start to come down. Not all at once. Change like this doesn't happen overnight. But brick by brick, day by day, you start letting people in. You start asking for help. You start admitting when you're not okay. You start trusting again, carefully, wisely, but genuinely. You learn to discern who's safe and who's not. Because not everyone deserves access to your heart, but some people do. Not everyone will show up for you, but some people will. Not everyone can handle your vulnerability, but the right people can and will. And as you start to share your load, as you start to let others walk with you, as you start to accept help instead of always giving it, something beautiful happens. You discover that you're stronger together than you ever were alone. That your relationships become richer. That your faith becomes deeper. That your life becomes fuller. Because you were never meant to carry everything alone. You were meant to be part of a community. Part of a family. Part of a body where everyone carries each other's burdens. Where everyone supports each other. Where everyone shows up for each other. Taking care of everything alone doesn't make you strong. It makes you isolated. It makes you exhausted. It makes you bitter and resentful and lonely. But letting people help you, that takes real courage. That requires real strength. That demands real faith. So if you're still watching, if this message is speaking to your soul, I want you to do something for me. Subscribe and hit that like button so more people who need to hear this can find it. Because there are thousands of people right now who are carrying everything alone, thinking they have no choice, and they need to know there's another way. So here we are. You've carried everything alone for so long. You've been the strong one, the reliable one, the one who never breaks. And maybe today, for the first time in a long time, you're finally ready to admit, this isn't working anymore. This way of living is breaking you. And you need something to change. That admission right there? That's not weakness. That's wisdom. That's courage. That's the first step toward healing. Because you can't change what you won't acknowledge. You can't fix what you keep pretending isn't broken. And you can't receive help if you keep insisting you don't need it. So let's talk about what happens next. Let's talk about how you actually start to let go of this burden you've been carrying alone. Because knowing you need to change and knowing how to change are two very different things. First, you have to make a decision. A real, conscious, deliberate decision that you're not going to live this way anymore. Not because you're giving up. Not because you're weak. But because you're choosing life over survival. You're choosing connection over isolation. You're choosing peace over pride. This decision isn't a one-time thing. You'll have to make it again tomorrow. And the day after that. And the day after that. Because your old patterns are comfortable. Your old ways of thinking are familiar. And when things get hard, your default will be to go back to handling it all yourself. So you have to choose differently, over and over again, until the new way becomes your new normal. Second, you have to start small. You don't have to share everything with everyone all at once. You don't have to completely tear down all your walls in a single day. But you do have to start somewhere. Maybe it's telling one trusted person, I'm really struggling right now. Maybe it's asking your spouse or your child or your friend, can you help me with this? Maybe it's praying honestly to God and saying, I can't do this alone anymore. I need you. Start with one small act of vulnerability. One small admission of need. One small request for help. And see what happens. See if the world falls apart like you're afraid it will. See if people reject you like you fear they might. Or see if, instead, they respond with kindness. With compassion. With relief that you're finally letting them in. Because here's what you'll discover. Most people want to help. Most people want to be there for you. They've just been waiting for permission. They've been waiting for you to let them. And when you finally do, when you finally open that door even just a crack, you'll be amazed at how many people have been standing on the other side, ready to walk in. Third, you have to learn to receive. This is harder than it sounds, especially for people who are used to being the giver. When someone offers to help, you have to resist the urge to say, no, I'm fine. I've got it. When someone asks how you're really doing, you have to fight the instinct to put on a smile and say, everything's great. When someone tries to carry part of your load, you have to let them, even when it feels uncomfortable. Receiving is an act of humility. It's admitting that you need others. It's acknowledging that you're not self-sufficient. It's accepting that you're human and humans need community. And yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, it's scary. But it's also beautiful. Because when you allow yourself to receive, you give others the gift of giving. You honor their love. You value their presence. You trust their hearts. Fourth, you have to grieve. Grieve the years you spent carrying everything alone. Grieve the relationships that stayed surface level because you never let anyone really know you. Grieve the pain you endured in silence. Grieve the help you needed but never asked for. Grieve the version of yourself that thought she had to be strong all the time. This grief is important. It's not dwelling on the past. It's honoring what you've been through. It's acknowledging the cost of the life you've been living. And it's making space for something new to grow. You can't plant a garden in soil that's still full of rocks and weeds. You have to clear it first. And that clearing process involves feeling the feelings you've been avoiding, crying the tears you've been holding back, and releasing the pain you've been carrying. Let yourself feel it. All of it. The exhaustion. The loneliness. the resentment, the sadness, the anger. Let it come up and let it out. Not because you want to stay there, but because the only way through is through. You can't heal what you won't feel. And you can't move forward if you're still carrying all that unprocessed emotion from the past. Fifth, you have to forgive. Forgive the people who weren't there when you needed them. Forgive yourself for thinking you had to be strong enough to never need anyone. Forgive the circumstances that taught you that vulnerability was dangerous. Forgive the world for being a place where you felt like you couldn't let your guard down. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you're excusing anyone's behavior. It doesn't mean you have to trust people who proved themselves untrustworthy. It simply means you're releasing the bitterness that's been poisoning your heart. You're letting go of the grudges that have been keeping you stuck. You're choosing freedom over resentment. And as you forgive, you'll notice something shift. The weight gets a little lighter. The bitterness starts to fade. The walls begin to crumble. Not because the past changes, but because your relationship to it does. You stop being defined by what hurt you and start being shaped by what you're choosing now. Sixth, you have to trust God with the outcome. You can't control how people will respond when you finally open up. You can't guarantee that everyone will show up the way you hope they will. You can't force relationships to deepen or people to understand. But you can trust that God sees you, that He knows what you need, that He's working things together for your good even when you can't see it. Trust that when you take a step toward vulnerability, He'll meet you there. Trust that when you ask for help, He'll provide it somehow, someway, through someone. Trust that when you lay down your burden, He'll give you the strength to live differently. Trust that this new way of living, this honest, open, connected way, is worth the risk. And finally, you have to remember, this is a journey, not a destination. You won't get it perfect. There will be days when you slip back into old patterns. Days when you try to handle everything alone again. Days when you close yourself off because it feels safer. And that's okay. Growth isn't linear. Healing isn't instant. Change takes time. But every time you choose vulnerability over pride, connection over isolation, honesty over pretense, you're taking another step toward the life you were meant to live. A life where you don't have to carry everything alone. A life where you can rest in the support of people who love you. A life where you can be fully known and still fully loved. Imagine what that life could look like. Imagine waking up in the morning and not feeling the weight of the world on your shoulders. Imagine having people you can call when you're struggling, people you trust, people who show up. Imagine being able to cry without shame, to ask for help without guilt, to admit you're not okay without fear. Imagine relationships that go deeper than surface-level conversation. Friendships where you can be real, where you can be messy, where you can be human. Family connections that feel safe instead of draining. A community where everyone carries each other and nobody has to pretend to be stronger than they are. That life is possible. Not perfect. Not problem-free. But possible. And it starts with a choice. The choice to stop carrying everything alone. The choice to let people in. The choice to trust that you don't have to do life by yourself anymore. You've been strong for so long. You've carried so much. You've endured more than most people know. And you've done an incredible job just surviving. But God doesn't want you to just survive. He wants you to thrive. He wants you to experience joy, peace, rest, and deep connection. And you can't experience those things while you're still trying to do everything alone. So today, right now, in this moment, I want you to make a decision. Decide that you're going to start living differently. Decide that you're going to start asking for help. Decide that you're going to start letting people in. Not because it's easy. Not because it's comfortable. But because you deserve better than the lonely, exhausting life you've been living. You deserve to be supported. You deserve to be cared for. You deserve to have people walk beside you. You deserve rest. You deserve peace. You deserve to be loved not for what you can do or how strong you can be, but simply for who you are. And I promise you this, when you finally lay down the burden of doing everything alone, when you finally open your heart to receiving help, when you finally trust others enough to let them carry you when you need it, you'll wonder why you waited so long. You'll wish you had done it sooner. And you'll never want to go back to the old way again. Because taking care of everything alone doesn't make you strong. It makes you lonely. But letting others help you, that's where real strength is found. That's where true community is built. That's where lasting peace begins. So let it go. Let people in. Let God carry what you were never meant to carry. And watch how your life transforms when you finally stop trying to do it all alone. If this message has touched your heart, if you feel like God used these words to speak to you today, please subscribe and leave a like. Share this video with someone you know who's been carrying everything alone. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear this just as much as you did. Someone needs permission to stop being so strong. Someone needs to know they're not alone in feeling this way. You've been carrying everything alone for too long. But today can be the day that changes. Today can be the day you choose a different path. Today can be the day you finally let yourself be helped. And when you do, you'll discover something beautiful. You were never meant to carry it all alone. And now, finally, you don't have to.